You were at Dolphins training camp. What's your assessment on this new Tua? And he's supposedly put on some muscle, and he's more careful, and he's ready to take that next step. What did you see from him when you visited camp?
It's a great line from Mike McDaniel to me yesterday about Tua. And he goes, Teddy Bridgewater was telling me this, and I never really thought of it. But he said, we ask quarterbacks in the NFL to not get hit through the offseason. So you get no physical contact, essentially, for 7 months. And then you're asked on opening day to play in a game when they're trying to take your head off. And his whole point was, I don't like that. Chris Greer, the GM, they didn't like it. They met with Tua this offseason. Because, Mike, just remember this. For all the Tuanon people and everybody who just anytime you say anything remotely negative about Tua Tagovailoa, the bottom line is this. In the 2 years that he's been the no-doubt starter, he's played 13 of 17 games. He's missed 4 games each year. So, there's no gray area. You got to learn how to play 16 or 17 games. That is what the great players do. The consistently great players, they're there every week. Now, you can say, well, the Dolphins upgraded. They got Mike White, who I think is a nice backup. But they don't want Mike White to play. They want Tua to play every Sunday.
And as they're doing all these things to shore up Tua and protect him against the aftermath of contact, hopefully they're also doing everything they can to get him to just get rid of the ball. Just don't put yourself in a position where you have to fall a certain way or you need a special helmet. You're not getting hit. The ball is out and they pull up and you automatically go to the next play.
This week, the Miami Dolphins are holding joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons. And then the Fins will host the Falcons in the Dolphins' first preseason game of the season down at the Hard Rock this Friday night at 7 p.m., which I'll be broadcasting live, but more on that in a little while. So given Tua Tagovailoa's abrupt end to the season last year, and seeing how the Miami offense has been somewhat lackluster in preseason training camp thus far, the question beckons, should Tua Tagovailoa take the field in the Miami Dolphins preseason games this year? I ran a quick poll on my YouTube channel, and if it were up to you fans, y'all said no. You don't want him playing, you want him sitting on the sidelines, and you want him protected until the season begins. Nearly 1,000 of you people voted. Thank you very much for participating. And 56% said, nope, we don't want him playing during the preseason. Me? I don't agree. I think Tua needs to play the preseason games, at least part of each preseason game. Why? For 2 reasons. One, I think he needs to get out there and dust off the cobwebs. And number 2, I think he needs to prove to himself, not anybody else, I think he needs to prove to himself that he's ready to take a hit. Well, Barry, most teams don't play their starting quarterbacks, during the preseason. I understand that. But Tua's a different story. Tua went down with an injury that was a recurring injury throughout the season. I think he knows. I think he needs to know inside of his head that he can take a hit. I understand that it's dangerous, but I think given his situation and where he's come from and what he has to prove to himself, that 2 series in each of the preseason games might be worth it. It might be worth taking that chance to enhance Tua's performance going into the season. Here's what I said in last week's Tua Tuesday live broadcast.
Inside of the ball, got to stay away from the quarterback, and no one can really touch me. So
and that's the thing I wanted to make sure everybody heard. He knows in his mind, you can't touch me. That's the problem I have with the preseason, because he has a mindset, nothing's going to happen to me during preseason. You can't touch me. The coaches told you, don't touch Tua. I got the bright red jersey on. I am fine. I am comfortable. That mindset will change in 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It will completely change, because at that point, every single guy on the other side of the line of scrimmage is going to try and hit you and try to separate you from the ball and to test you. So that comfort level right now, I think is, I wouldn't say destructive, but that's why I think he has to play in a preseason game, because even he knows I can't get touched.
The only time you can really put that to use is in a real live situation game.
So if the only time you can put your jiu-jitsu into practice is in a live game, then you got to put him in a live game. That's what I was leading up to, because at this point right now, he hasn't been touched. He won't be touched. He knows he won't be touched. Everybody on both sides of the ball in camp knows they can't touch him. So it's basically turning him into a bubble boy, which I think is unnatural given the state of a football player. I need to know what happened. Now I understand. I'm not saying at all that that they should. I know Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel would lose their jobs if they opened up Tua to that kind of injury, and during that kind of injury, he was not able to play for the opening of the season or a few games because you took a shot during preseason. But just so everybody watching this video knows, first game against the Chargers is the first time they're going to be facing live ammo. Nobody's going to know what will happen. He's going to address having muscle memory, which you can't develop the way he took jiu-jitsu in the offseason. He tried to learn some things, but it doesn't become muscle memory because you're not facing a live opponent. That's scary. It's something we have to live with, but it is what it is. To those of you who haven't voted, what do you think? Should Tua Tagovailoa take to the field in each of the preseason games, or part of the preseason games? Let me know in a comment below. And don't forget, tomorrow, just like every Tuesday, join me for Tua Tuesday, a live broadcast with a tremendous amount of interaction and engagement. I'd love to have you aboard. Just go ahead and click here to be notified when we go live tomorrow. Talk to you soon. Fins up.
Is anybody catching on to this Barry guy?